Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Financial Advisors Want to Know podcast. I'm Catherine Tindall. I'm a CPA here at Dominion. We're a specialty tax and accounting firm that works for financial advisors as their tax strategy and just kind of tax genius guides. So today's episode, we have Rich LeBranti. He is a CFP that I've connected with, and we had a great conversation a while back about his experience and his partnerships and his experiences with his practice. So I wanted to have him on to have that conversation. He is a CFP. He co-founded Doble LeBranti Financial Group, which merged with Axial Financial Group in 2023. He is very active in his programs with his alma mater and mentoring programs, and really eager to help people with navigating their financial futures. So he was open to having this conversation. He lives in Massachusetts with his family, and he's got a couple of high schoolers. So we were talking about the challenges of that transition. But thanks for joining me today, Rich.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Catherine.
So I'd love for people, because I'm assuming most people here listening won't be familiar with your history, just a little bit of your experience running your firm and the partnership, and just kind of how you got into financial planning, just a little bit of that background before we go into the main topic of, navigating a successful partnership split, which is the episode's focus for today.
Absolutely. So I entered financial planning in around 2001. And soon after that, I had joined a firm, All-America Financial, in Waltham, Massachusetts. And my business partner had joined about 6 or so months before me. And we had just kind of started our practices from scratch and decided that it would make sense to kind of join forces, do some joint marketing, and try to figure out a way to help each other as we navigated the start of a rough business in a pretty interesting time with the market. So we moved around to a couple different firms for the first 7 or 8 years of our practice until we felt that we had enough assets, enough clients, and kind of enough, business expertise at that point to kind of start our own firm, which we did in 2010, which was Doble LeBranti Financial Group. And we joined Commonwealth Financial Network as our partner broker-dealer through that process, and had a great run with Commonwealth from 2010 through 2023, when we ended up winding down the partnership very successfully. And I was lucky enough to be a suite mate of another Commonwealth Financial Network firm, Axial Financial Group. And I was able to partner with them through the transition that I made with my business partner at the time. And that has worked out amazingly. I've taken on some leadership roles here. I've been training a young advisor group, what we're calling our next gen group of 4 young mentees that I have. And I've been able to continue to successfully run and grow my practice. So it's really been a blessing and has worked out, very well.
Yeah, that's great.
Including a very successful split with the partnership that we'll talk more about.
Yeah, because this is a concept of, a lot of advisors that I talk to have a similar journey to you, where it's kind of a fluid situation of where they are. They move around a couple different places. Maybe they have a partner, they drop the partner. And there was a post on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago that was talking about people's experiences in partnerships. And I think it was actually a Kitz's post. And most people were actually saying that, surprisingly, a lot of them were still with their first partner. But most of them were, it was about 50-50. And I think of the people in there, a lot of them were talking about how it was successful or unsuccessful. And so what I was struck with your story when we were talking prior to the show is that you had a very successful winding down of the partnership and, still had an amicable relationship with the partner. And I think for people where they might be listening and they're stuck in a partnership where they know a change needs to happen, I'd love to get your insight on what you felt went well in that situation. And, if you had to do it over again, or if you had somebody who was kind of in the situation you were, what you'd advise them on. And I guess maybe one, if you want to go into it a little bit too, of like what made you make the decision of, okay, between you and your partner, of it's time for us to have a transition. to kind of spur people of, an initial thoughts you have related to what happened with that separation.
Absolutely. So probably 4 years before we wound down the partnership, as you know, we're with Commonwealth Financial Network, and just purely for kind of some exploration, we looked at the RIA models and maybe moving from the broker-dealer model to an RIA. And we did that together. And we did that before we had talked about changing anything with our practice, just to kind of kick the tires and see what else is out there for our clients' benefit and then eventually for our benefit. And I think through that exploration, I found that I really enjoyed the scenario that I had with Commonwealth and the broker-dealer relationship, and really the partnership that I've struck with them. And my business partner, as much as he really enjoyed Commonwealth, he kind of was drawn more to the RIA side. And, at the time, we shared a lot of conversations about what it would look like if we moved together. And then it just kind of fizzled. Business and life gets in the way. We're busy, and we just never committed more to that exploration or that conversation until maybe 12 to 18 months later, it kind of came up again, and he really seemed motivated to move to an RIA model. And I really wasn't. In the meantime, he also started developing a really great niche with female executives in the biotech and pharma space. And he wanted to market exclusively to that segment of prospects. And that isn't really my model. So to do it under our brand became a little bit more difficult. So I think as we continued to have conversations about how his side of the practice was developing and growing, it just made sense that he was able to kind of scratch that entrepreneurial itch for the RIA and be able to develop a practice just for the niche that he wanted to service. And obviously, the first set of conversations was a bit emotional and a little bit of a letdown, because I never pictured myself not being with my business partner, because we really had built a great practice, and we cared a lot about each other. We continue to care about each other. But I also never wanted to be in a position to hold him back from something that he wanted to do, and vice versa. We always were, friends and partners, and have a deep relationship with each of our families and each of our children, and really shared, a lot of care for each other. So I think when we talked in length about what he wanted and what I wanted and what I didn't want, it kind of made sense that we wind things down. And I think what we focused on, which were the two most important things, were that, care for our clients and our clients' best interest was number one. And then care for each other in each other's success was number two, and making sure that we respected each other through the wind down process, that we kept our communication open. There were obviously times where we had conversations that were uncomfortable, and, because we respected each other and had a successful partnership for 22 years, we were able to get through that. So I think the biggest message I can share is, if you can put the client's needs first, and then keep each other's needs and feelings and things in mind, that you're going to respect each other through that process, we were able to successfully navigate. So I think we were in a unique scenario where we kind of came to that decision together, as opposed to a lot of partnerships where one partner maybe behind the scenes is kind of planning to do something and kind of springs it on someone, their other partner or number of partners, and say, hey, I've already created this other entity, I'm off and running, and, thank you for the time. So, we navigated a little bit differently. And I think that would be my best advice, is if you can think about what's going to be best for your clients and putting their needs first, and sticking at Commonwealth was the best for my subset of clients that I work with and continue to work with, and taking care for each other and looking out for each other and helping each other through the process and respecting each other's decisions, can make for a successful wind down, which I think we had. And we continue to stay in touch and try to help each other. And we just had dinner this past Saturday, so I'm happy that we can continue to stay in touch, and make sure that we continue to care for each other, because business is business, but friendship and kind of personal relations can be totally separate and should be respected through that process.
Yeah, that's great. And I think for somebody, one of my big takeaways from that is what led you into that successful exit was really just how you conducted the relationship beforehand too. Like what you were saying of it was something that multiple conversations, you came to the conclusion together. And it wasn't like he just sprung this on you like, hey, I'm heading for the hills with this RIA, like, good luck. So I think for people, if you're maybe in a position in a firm where you're partnered with somebody, or even, I think as like an employee to employer relationship too, I see this a lot where people don't communicate and then they'll spring things on each other, or they don't have that open pathway of communication, just creates for a lot of strange expectations. And then, things can devolve really quickly. For somebody in this situation, like, did you have any outside parties that were helping you through the process, or was it something you guys basically managed on your own? Hey there, Catherine here. Thanks for listening to the conversation. Just wanted to explain a little more about what we do. So I'm a CPA here with Dominion. We're a tax firm that works specifically for financial advisors as they're growing and scaling their practices to help them avoid tax waste, make the right calls, and grow practices that they love. So if you're interested in saving more, you can DM me on LinkedIn with the word guide, and I'll send you over our guide for financial advisors to scale tax efficiently. All my top tips to unlock six-figure savings. Thanks, and keep enjoying the show.
For the most part, we managed it on our own. So we had a legal entity, we had legal agreements in place, our operating agreement, and we had a buy-sell agreement in place as well. So Commonwealth was really wonderful through the process. We were able to kind of, after we made the decision and, my business partner had his ducks in a row, we were able to bring them on and seek some legal counsel from them just to make sure we weren't missing anything. But because we were just two members of an LLC and we had a cross-purchase buy-sell agreement, it was pretty clean and easy in regard to winding that down. And so surprisingly, I am still the succession partner for my business partner, even though he's moved to his RIA model. We kept his side of the buy sell in place with me as the successor in the event that something were to happen to him. He would want the clients to continue or pick up to be serviced by me, because I knew a lot of his clients. And it was a little bit easier for us where we managed our practice as a partnership, and split expenses and our employees and the operating costs, but we kind of managed our individual relationships a bit in a silo. So when he did split, it was easy for him to kind of take the clients that he had been servicing with him, and as they knew me, and vice versa, my clients knew him, but we were always responsible for the relationships we kind of brought into the practice. So that made it a little bit easier. So we did seek some counsel from Commonwealth, but we really didn't need, too much. Again, I think being honest with each other, open communication, and really respecting each other and what we needed for the time during the transition allowed us to kind of be able to do it successfully together with a little bit of outside counsel that Commonwealth gave. And Commonwealth was a great business partner to him on the exit because, they didn't make it difficult for him. They understood that our plans had changed and things had kind of changed in our business relationship. And they were very supportive to me through that transition. And they were very supportive to him. He had a lot more on his plate because he moved to, basically a new brokerage firm and had to repaper everything. For me, The only thing that changed was the name on the door. My email, my phone, my office location, my admin, my reception, everything stayed the same. So I had it a little bit easier through that process, quite a bit easier. But we still had to manage that communication to clients. And, I have to give a lot of credit to his clients and mine. I mean, we had pretty much almost 100% retention on each side. And, it's a great testament to him and his practice where his clients all had to move and pretty much every single one of them went with him. So I think when you're able to navigate it, clearly spending some time, respecting each other and being thoughtful about the communications, I'm in a unique scenario, I believe, because a lot of partnerships I've heard don't really end as well. So I feel lucky for that. But I think if you put in the amount of time and effort and maintain that mutual respect with anything in life, not just a business partnership, you could probably navigate it pretty well. So I think the wind down was probably a little bit easier for us, and we didn't really need a lot of people from the outside kind of helping. But we did seek a little bit of counsel from Commonwealth and got some really good help from them.
Yeah, that's great. So I think do you have any kind of last thoughts that you'd like to share for people who are considering winding down a partnership, of some practical things that you found to be helpful?
Yeah, I think, maintaining like great records for, how you track your business and, if you do have joint business with a partner, because, my business partner and I had a few clients that we kind of shared revenue on, and we had to work through that and figure out kind of who and why would keep that relationship. So that would be the first thing, just to make sure you understand, who was responsible for bringing the relationship in, who serviced it, and who might be a better fit for the ongoing maintenance. I think it is good to kind of keep track for all clients in a partnership. And then also allowing yourself to be open to exploring something new. If you're in a partnership and you feel like maybe something isn't going great, or you really have a bit of an entrepreneurial itch that you want to scratch, maybe don't be scared to explore it, because it might lead to something that really benefits you. And a lot of times I think in a partnership, you worry about the other person's feelings, and if you care, right? And I think to be honest with each other and almost give someone, I don't want to say the permission, but the support to say, yeah, I mean, look, business is business, and we've had a great run, but if there's something that you might want to explore that I don't let me hold you back. I think life's too short for that, and you should give yourself the ability to respect someone and respect yourself enough to say, yeah, don't take it personal, and allow someone to do maybe something they always wanted to do, or something newly discovered that they want to do. So I think that's the best advice. And if you do get to a wind down, just, keep a level head, keep that respect for each other, and, understand that, you can put business in one box and personal and emotional and family relations in another, and that's okay. They don't have to be married to one another.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And for people who are interested in connecting with you, what's the best way for people to get in touch if they're interested?
Yeah, so happy to take any calls or emails. Email is probably the best. RLeBranti at axialfg.com, and our firm is www.axialfg.com, AXIALFG. So happy to take a call, an email, and I really appreciate you considering me for the podcast, and glad to be able to share the story.
Yeah, no, it's a great story, and thank you for your openness with it, because I know a lot of people wouldn't be up for sharing something that's that, it is business, but it's personal, and it's definitely an emotionally charged thing. So yeah, thank you. And for people listening, those links will be nearby wherever you're encountering this. And so I think with that, we'll wrap up today's episode. I'd love to hear from you listeners what you thought, and if you have any ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to come on the show to talk about something that's impacted you in your practice, we're looking to do more episodes with advisors talking about pieces of their practice that they want to share that story with other advisors. So thanks again for listening. This is the Financial Advisors Want to Know podcast, and I'm Catherine Tindall. Thanks.